Welcome to Bridging of Ages. My name is Dan Mendelevitz. Today we're going to be continuing our discussion about intergenerational teams. And if you've been with us before, you've had an opportunity to learn a little bit about that. Today we're talking about integrating into your business organizations. And as we've talked about in the past, intergenerational teams are incredibly powerful for your organization or business. So what we'd like to do is start first to reiterate a little bit and understanding intergenerational teams. Now, what are they? They're teams that consist of members of multiple ages and experiences, and it's done purposefully. You want to build this into your system. We can blend and learn to blend those communication styles, the work ethics, the technology proficiencies, the experience, the increases that come from that are the innovation and the productivity. So if we get a rich mix of experience levels, we end up with a very diverse problem-solving approach, because now we are looking at it from multiple levels, multiple experiences, multi-generations. And that really ups the problem solving of your team. So while we're looking at this, we really want to leverage those unique strengths of each age and experience level. It really is going to enhance how you're going to go forward. And as we've talked about in previous shows, it's really important to understand how intergenerational teams will be more powerful for you. You want to have people that are going to also reflect your customer base, because for most businesses, your customers are of very differing ages and experiences. And if your teams reflect that, that can be really powerful. So let's look a little bit more to see how we're going to build those and what they're about. So let's look at experience and perspective. Intergenerational experience. Now, as we've talked about, these teams are really combining these diverse age groups. They're offering varied experiences. They have different ideas of how things are built, how technology affects it, and you have a mix of people who have experienced changes over their lifetime of technology and those who are seeing it in a newer light. So those intergenerational experiences will help you to integrate that. And you can teach each other about that. We've talked about mentoring. We've talked about reverse mentoring in previous shows. And that teaches you how to make sure that both sides are learning all the time. Creativity through diversity. So during your diverse life stages and your different historical backgrounds, you really have different means of creativity and innovation. And what I love about intergenerational teams is the fact that you can match the experience of your older workers with that energy and innovation of your younger ones. But we can fit that into the experience of both. And we end up with a very innovative problem solving approach. So, why does this benefit your business or your organization? So, studies have shown, and some large companies have taken a look at this, PwC, Microsoft, some others. Also, remember, this also reflects on smaller companies, even more so. And they found a 19% higher innovation affecting their revenues. And it's really a better decision making quality because now you have vast different perspectives. If you think about your team just be monolithic and they're all coming from the same experience level and roughly the same age, they don't have the benefit of experiences at different levels. Whether that be a team that's all older experienced people or just younger, newer to the workplace. If you think about it, those pieces can complement each other. So let's take a look at intergenerational collaboration. So why does it work? Now think about it. Diversity in many different ways enhances your systems and your different ways of putting your work together. Because when you have different thoughts from different experience levels, it really brings a richer. So let's say you've got a group of people and you're brainstorming towards the beginning of a project. You're going to get much more novel solutions to these really complex problems that affect us in business nowadays because you have these different levels of experience. You, of course, as a leader, have to make sure that you give voice to everyone there. If that isn't happening, then you're not going to get that diverse viewpoints. You have to be able to give credence to somebody who's been around for a while or somebody who's new to it because they both have something vital to contribute. So when you get together with a multi-generational composition, you are really going to boost your productivity and you have a good chance at much higher market growth compared to less diverse groups. Because if you think about it, you may come out of the box very strong, but in order to sustain that, you need different viewpoints. You need to have that reflected back to you. You have to be open to the fact that people are going to be looking at it a very different way. As we've talked about in earlier episodes, that communication is vital because different ages, different experience levels, we use words differently. We use communication differently. We use technology differently. But if you can meld that within your multi-generational team, it's like a juggernaut. So we want to take a combination of seasoned, experienced people and people who have a more fresh look at the same problem. And we can now approach this from multiple angles. And that will actually bring change much quicker because now we're seeing it from different perspectives. We're seeing it as our customers see it, as the people our organization serves. So now we're going to boost our performances. And if you get into points where we all do, where we have to do some firefighting and really hit a crisis, now you have different viewpoints that can allow you to adapt quickly. Because you're going to have market disruptions, you're going to have things fall apart, you're going to have things that have to be fixed in a hurry. And if you can get differing viewpoints, you have a much better way to correct those difficulties. So this creates a lot of adaptability, and it really fosters a resilience within your company or organization. And if you it really helps with that long-term competitive advantage because now you have differing viewpoints, different looks at a problem, different ways to make it happen. So let's take a look at the customer and service delivery. So, how does it impact customer satisfaction? Well, as I said, you are now reflecting what your customers look like with your teams. Now you can relate to an older customer. You can relate to a younger customer. You can relate to combinations of them, which is also very important because now, as we understand, you have to communicate differently with people at different experience levels. Now you can tailor those communications because you have people within your organization who know how to talk to that type of customer and respond to them. In a world now where a lot of customer service has fallen to the wayside, that gives you a competitive advantage because you can talk their language. So now, in addition, you can really identify those customer preferences across the different age groups. And now you can design the experience, the products that really resonate with those people. So if you really have diverse teams working for you, you're going to increase your customer satisfaction because now you're going to retain customers because they now have somebody within your organization who knows how to communicate them in the language that they are used to, in a way they are used to. Somebody may only want to get text. Somebody might want an email. Somebody might need to talk to somebody on the phone. Those are different levels of communication. But if you have people within your organization who can reflect what your customer base looks like, you now have the advantage of your competition. So if we have teams of multiple generations, we really have that empathy for the people that we serve. And you can connect to customers much better. And what's also important is you're going to anticipate their needs much quicker. So when you're developing new products, if you're pushing into a market, whatever you're looking for, you now have the internal strength in order to make that happen better. So we now have a much more effective communication internally and externally. And that also builds your loyalty, which is vitally important in today's market. So let's take a look at why these international teams matter and how you can build this. So, do you really have an understanding of what an intergenerational team is? It's not just plucking a couple people out and putting them in, it's making it your policy to build those teams on a multi-generational level. How can you start? Well, if you don't have it in your organization now, you can set up small groups and prototype it and see what works within your organization. Set up, if you look at our previous shows, you can see how we can set up a mentoring situation where an experienced person can better help somebody who is new to it. And as we all know in large corporations, if you don't have a mentor, you're never going to move up into the upper echelons. But it's also important to small and medium-sized companies. So you want to get that experience and that perspective. What we've also talked about is reverse mentoring. This is when the younger, less experienced person now mentors a senior person. So what is vital is that you set up these systems with these communications. And as we've talked about in the past, how those communications happen, a common way to talk to each other, whether it's a Slack channel or whatever works for you. You still have to have a common. That doesn't exclude other ones like email and phone calls and texting and all the things that we have swirling around us nowadays. But if you don't have a common way to talk to each other and put these groups together and find a common language, it's not going to work. So what's vital is that you need to understand what the problem is. You need to try it on your own. Look within your organization right now. Do you have people with different levels of experience? And do you have different ages all mixed in? If you don't, you need to go out and find that. And you can start small. You can bring in more experienced people. You can bring somebody right out of school. And then you can put them together. And then measure it and look at it and see what's working. But as we've talked about in previous shows, if the leadership isn't behind it, it's not going to happen. You have to let them know that they can fail, they can fix it, they can get better, and you can build these intergenerational teams, because intergenerational teams really matter. They are stronger, they are more productive, they are more innovative. So once you set up these intergenerational collaborations, you can eventually roll this out through internally and also out to your customer base and your service delivery. And you can look how this, you can actually measure, and you already know how to do this in your business. You can measure your customer satisfaction. You can understand if you are delivering a better service because you now have an intergenerational team. Remember, different experience levels and different ages aren't better than each other. They're powerful when they work together. We now have the individual parts are greater than the sum. It starts to work exponentially with you. You build a stronger system. You build a place where people understand they can learn, they can contribute. This will make you more money. The bottom line is going to experience going up because you have the strength of the intergenerational team, the people who can bring together and help you solve problems and become more innovative. So let's take a look at this. So now if you have a better understanding of why intergenerational teams matter, you can understand how the integration into your business organization becomes your superpower. After a break from our sponsor, we're going to come back and look some action items and tips that you can use in order to build in intergenerational teams and integrating them into your business organization. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, welcome to Bridging of Ages. We've been talking about intergenerational teams and integrating them into your business organization. Let's look at some action items that you can do in order to implement integration into your business organization. Action item 1. Combine experiences and perspectives. So now that you have an intergenerational team, you can now have varying experiences, different viewpoints, and as you learn to integrate those and give everybody the option of speaking forward. Now remember, everybody's opinion is valued. So somebody who has less experience as is important as somebody who has more experience. And this really fuels your innovation and problem solving because now we're looking at stuff from different views. It supercharges how you can solve problems. And if you can boost that innovation, taking the energy of one group and putting it with the experience of the other, because remember, people who've been doing this for a while have seen the kind of problems that can happen repeatedly. Even though things are a lot of times new, we can apply that experience to what we had before. And we all know that there's no substitute for experience. But the new energy that's coming from looking at something at a very different perspective and a different experience level will really fuel that innovation. So combine those experiences and perspectives. Action item 2, foster communications with respect. And as I was talking about, everybody's opinion matters. You need to encourage that open communication. You have to build that into your system. You have to understand that there's no retaliation. There is no power imbalance on these teams. You really have to make it inclusive and really strongly collaborative in your business environment, because that is going to fuel the innovation again, and you have better problem solving because now we can anticipate things ahead of time because somebody else said, I see it from this way, and you say, I see it from this way. And when we look at those two differing viewpoints, we can consolidate that information in order to foster communications. But remember, it has to be done with respect. So if you build into your system to foster communications with respect, it becomes one of your superpowers. Action item 3, enhance customer understanding. So now when you have these intergenerational collaborations, you're really improving your insights into your customer needs, your customer base. It's really driving your business success because now you understand the customers that you serve, the ones who have varying experiences, different ages, different technical abilities, different ways of looking at what you offer as a business or an organization. So it's vitally important that you enhance the customer understanding. So our action items today are combine experience and perspectives. Action item 2, foster communications with respect. Action item 3, enhance customer understanding. And if you see what we talked earlier in the show, we cover a lot of these, and you can take a look at how you can better do this. So let's give you the tip of the day today. Your team needs to reflect your customers. And as I've been talking about on this show, if you have an intergenerational team, that reflects the people who buy from you or that your organization serves. Just think about it. If you can have people on your team with different experience levels and different ages reflecting what your customer base looks like, you now have a much more powerful way to relate to them. You can anticipate their needs. You can see what you're going to be selling to them. You can sell more of that. And for your organizations who do service for people, you now have a better insight on how you're going to help them in the services that you provide. So the tip is your team needs to reflect your customers. And I think we lose this sometimes in the modern world, and we're moving so quickly, is that, and customer service sometimes gets pushed to the side. If we really reflect our customers in our internal teams, we now have a much better connection. And that will eventually reflect your bottom line. So today we've been talking about intergenerational teams and how integrating them into your business organization can enhance your bottom line and help your organization move forward. You can also take a look, if you like, at some of the previous shows, and they expand on these different aspects. So this has been Bridging of Ages. My name is Dan Mendelevitz. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find the QR code in the corner. Invest in brain power, you'll brilliance.